approached from behind, and a man tried to force something into her mouth and was essentially trying to grab her. She was also able to escape. During that incident, the suspect stole a pair of very specific headphones from the victim. Due to the similarity in those two cases, the Madera County Regional SWAT Team, which contained members of both the Madera Sheriff's Office, the Madera Police Department, and the Churchill Police Department, they were deployed along with the Madera Sheriff's Special Enforcement Team, off-highway vehicles, drones, air support, and several agencies throughout the valley. They were out there for an extended period of time searching, trying to apprehend this individual. During this time, multiple individuals were contacted. Search warrant was served on nearby homeless encampments, but ultimately we came up empty-handed on that. Due to the similar nature, the suspect description, the geographic location, we did determine that those first two instances were likely being done by a single offender. So in response to that, the Sheriff's Office Special Enforcement Team, the Madera County Narcotic Enforcement Team, which is a task force comprised of members of probation, the Madera Police Department, the Madera Sheriff's Office, Highway Patrol, and many agencies, launched an operation to identify and attempt to apprehend the suspect in these attacks. Throughout the month of July, we ran approximately 13 undercover operations in that area where we deployed decoys, a lot of personnel, trying to find this person. We contacted numerous people and did field interviews, ran down every single citizen tip we got, just really trying to do everything we can to find this person. In addition, we deployed covert cameras throughout the area to monitor, and those were monitored live by our dispatch center, as well as being able to be accessed later by investigators. The river was also patrolled daily by ground units, drones, and fixed-wing aircraft. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Chiramonte to explain what transpired next.
Thanks, Sheriff. Chief Giacchino, Chiramonte with Madera Police Department. I'd just like to start by saying thank you to the Sheriff. We have a strong relationship between our two agencies, and if we didn't have that collaboration, I don't think we could have gotten to where we got today with a positive outcome for our community. I first want to start by talking about the survivors. We have 3 survivors, not victims. They showed complete strength in times of duress, and I can't state how proud I am of their actions and from them preventing themselves from being a true victim in these cases. Our cases began on their very first case because these are all city residents that are utilizing the trail system and sometimes want a little extra mileage and will go out into the county area along our same river trail that just isn't paved. And that's something that often happens. I have a daughter who runs cross country. These are the types of things I talk with my wife, my daughter. I took this very personal because these are the conversations we have about our personal safety and what we have to do. The incident that occurred in the city happened last Saturday night on the 3rd at 9 p.m. at night. We had a survivor who was sitting on a park bench along the river trail. We have Victor Reyes, I apologize, I used the wrong first name. Victor Reyes was seen coming along the river trail by our victim and approached a few females. He was kind of brushed off by the females, and he continued to where our survivor was sitting and tried to sit next to her and converse to her in the Spanish language. She immediately got up, wanted nothing to do with Mr. Reyes, and walked away. She found that he was following him. She turned around and tried to escape. He pepper sprayed her in the eyeballs and tried to dissuade her and block her movement by putting his bicycle and trying to force her to go down towards the dead end area where the other first 2 incidents actually occurred out towards the county. During that time, she was able to defend herself, push herself away, and ran away to the street where she located a motorist and a good Samaritan who helped by standing by with her and calling the police. That's kind of where our investigation kicked off. Specifically, we knew we've had all kinds of resources through the Sheriff's Department and Police Department set up along this trail to be able to gather evidence. We quickly partnered with the Sheriff's Department and asked to use some of their surveillance videos to go comb through to see if we could identify our suspect. Our survivor was outstanding with able to give a good suspect description. The main piece of the suspect description that was utilized was his bike, which was very distinct, and then also he had a limp. This was something new we didn't have in the other two cases. Combing through the evidence of the Sheriff's Department's video that they had set up in the area, we were able to find an exact match of our suspect. We put a BOL out to our personnel inside the department, and we had numerous officers state that they had possibly had prior contacts, including one at a restaurant nearby that we had calls for service days earlier. We went to that restaurant who voluntarily brought forth their surveillance video, and we were able to identify the person again with just a slight different clothing, so we could continue to gather the pieces of clothing, but he was also wearing clothing that the survivor had described. We then combed through numerous body cam videos of any proactive bike stop that our officers had done within the last month, and we actually found 2 where we had made contact with him, and during those contacts we were able to get a name. Each time it was a little bit different name. He does have a criminal history for providing false identification to law enforcement. In this case, we had a close enough name we could start the search through our database system. We went back all the way to 2012 and found a very similar action where there was an arrest, and the picture actually was a very close match. So we started contacting to see where is the connection in this case with this suspect to possibly other matches. And we found this person, the victim of the 2012 case with our suspect, was actually still connected to services, and we were able to get an address that was a possible lead. Sure enough, yesterday our investigators went, knocked on the door, and found our suspect sitting in that living room. And that's where the investigation took off. We locked it down, were able to find the bike that was very specifically described by our survivor, still at the location, and we were able to get a search warrant and retrieve numerous other items of evidence specifically related to this case. We located a firearm inside, and I just want to be clear that throughout this investigation, we've had belief that this was our homeless community, and oftentimes our homeless community gets targeted specifically in these types of areas because it's down towards the river, and sometimes that's where a lot of our encampments are associated with. But this wasn't a homeless person. This was a family man, has 2 kids that were inside this house or this apartment of where we served that search warrant. He also has a woman that lives and resides with him. So it's a family man who was just targeting women both in the morning and evening. I was going to say in the evening, ours specifically was 9 p.m., but the first 2 that the Sheriff's Department encountered were in the morning times on the weekends. I also want to really show my appreciation to law enforcement, both officers and deputies, because throughout this investigation, this has been through the month of July that we have continued our efforts in some of the hottest conditions at some of the most extreme temperatures that these people, our officers and investigators, are combing through the river bottom and some of the most difficult times of where the brush is thick and it's not easy. So we utilize quite a bit of technology, like the sheriff talked about. A lot of our drones were up, camera systems, and those are important pieces to our investigation. I kind of want to close with this before I turn it back over, because I want the sheriff to talk about some of the evidence that he located associated to his 2 cases that was found where the suspect was located. But I just want to get across that safety message to the people who are using the river trail, some of our females that possibly may run alone and don't think about some of the safety cautions that we should be thinking about often, and something that I talk to my family about often too. And that's, when you go out for a run, don't run alone. Find a partner. I'm all about physical fitness, light time fitness, and I want us to enjoy the parks and trails. But we can take our safety in our own hands, and I think our survivors showed that they were able to do that too, which I'm very proud of. Be careful of not using headphones or things that are distractive, or you're not able to pay attention to your surroundings around you. It's extremely important that that happens. And then always have something that you could track yourself with. Whether that's a cell phone, it could be a smart watch, something that if something does go wrong, law enforcement has a place to kick off and be able to find you. With that, I just want to, again, appreciation towards the Sheriff's Department and the Madera police officers. with the dedication they've shown over the last month and just truly understanding what this meant to our community and the fear that this suspect and Mr. Reyes caused, and we're just glad to bring closure. With that, Sheriff Tyson Pogue, if you'd come back.
Thank you, Chief. During this investigation, we served a search warrant at the residence, as you know. During that search warrant, we recovered evidence linking Mr. Reyes to both of our county attacks. In the first incident, the survivor in that incident was able to positively pick out the Mr. Reyes from a photo lineup. We also recovered those very specific headphones from that residence, and we were able to tie those back to the second survivor's cell phone. So we're able to link him to both of those incidents, which was extremely important to us. I want to mention the charges. So he's going to be booked in the county on the county charges. So those first two incidents that happened will be kidnapping, attempted kidnapping, false imprisonment, brandishing of a weapon, robbery, criminal threats, and we sought out a bail enhancement, which will set his bail at $5 million. As we conclude, I think it's important to note that we do believe that Victor Hugo Valencia Reyes, he may have traveled to other counties within the state during these times of these assaults. We do have admissions that he was in other counties, and so we really encourage anybody out there, anyone who has any similar experiences or incidents that or information that might be related to this case, to please contact their local law enforcement agency or reach out to us directly and pass along that information. The successful resolution of this case really highlights the unwavering dedication and seamless collaboration between the Madera Police Department and the Madera County Sheriff's Office. Our combined efforts and those shared resources have ensured the safety and the security of our community. We've demonstrated a lot of strength in our law enforcement partnership over the last couple months. Victor Hugo Reyes, he posed a significant and escalating threat to the safety of women in our community. I'm deeply satisfied that the conclusion of this case, the arrest and prosecution of Reyes, will bring a sense of justice and relief to not only our survivors, but I think to the community as a whole. I commend the tireless work of our law enforcement teams and the vigilance of our citizens, and the cooperation was really instrumental in bringing this dangerous individual to justice. So with that, I'll invite the Chief back over here, and we'll take some questions as you have them.
Sheriff, can you tell us what other counties he may have been in during this time?
Yeah, so we don't really want to limit it just to specific counties. We do know that he does travel outside of Madera County, and so anybody nearby, or really anybody that happens to see this, if they have any similar incidents, we really encourage them to reach out to their local police department or contact us directly.
Would it be safe to say counties both south and north of Madera?
Any surrounding county, yeah.
What other charges did he have prior to this incident?
So prior to this incident, we had a conviction of a domestic violence. He had numerous other arrests with no convictions beyond that. From the police department side, we did seize a weapon, so he does have weapon violations, child abuse, or child neglect, child endangerment, I apologize, child endangerment charges, as well as false imprisonment of our survivor and spraying her with pepper spray, which falls under a tear gas case. Ms. Becker.
Was the motive robbery or sexual assault?
So those investigations are still under investigation, the motive, but I think we all can bring to light what we expect his intentions were. When tying somebody up, when trying to take someone into a river bottom, typically it's not a robbery. Typically there's other intentions, usually sexually in nature.
Any mental health issues?
I don't have that answer.
How far did he live from these incidents?
A great distance, actually. He lives dead middle of the city. He lives actually just east of the high school, Madera High School. And so he's a few miles away from the actual river, but he often was found riding throughout the city on his bicycle and often along the river trail and along Cleveland Avenue.
Did you say that you guys were able to locate him through a past victim, so she knew where he lived? Or?
So we did not contact the past victim, but we found different contacts where services were provided, and we followed up at different addresses to see if we could make contact. And at one of the residences, that's where we found him sitting on the couch. And then all the evidence was located inside that residence.
How crucial was it to have body cams, where you make contact, officers make contact in the past to help?
The question's about the importance of body cameras. It's extremely important, the technology that was used here. For one, we have surveillance cameras. For two, we have the businesses allowing us to utilize their surveillance equipment to be able to capture pictures. But then three, everything that a law enforcement does, we know is done on either vehicle camera or body camera. And these body cameras are actually what got us to identify the suspect. We had a good picture in multiple different areas, but that goes to the fact of surveillance cameras and city surveillance. Sometimes our public feels like that's a little bit of a government overreach, but these are the reasons why we utilize those systems and how important they are to solving these crimes and solving them quickly.
Chief, during the arrest, did he make any, did he resist or fight back?
He made there was no resistance. The family was extremely cooperative, and he provided a confession.
I'd imagine because of the nature of these and where they happened, getting him into custody is probably, for both of your departments, a good sense of relief to let the public know that, they're safe to go recreate on these trails.
100%. That is our number one thing, is making sure our community feels safe. And all these public spaces, we want people to enjoy, not be in fear as they're utilizing them or feel like they have to carry a weapon with them. So this was a key piece to bring safety and a sense of security back to our community.
Did he confess to all three incidents or just the city?
So I can only speak on the one that the police department did their investigation, and he confessed to ours. I'll let the sheriff, if you want to expand on that.
I have no additional info.
We have no additional info on that one. Not on parole or probation, no.
With him
He had completed it.
with him kind of living near a high school, is it obviously thankful for him to be in custody now?
100%. Now that we know where he lives, his target was in the area of the river trail west of town and just on the outskirts of town. And the targeted age range that we have of our survivors is 20 to 30 years old. But with that, yes, that is always a critical piece that we're trying to protect, is our youth and our female who are trying to go to school.
Are you guys going to increase patrols now along this trail following these incidents, or what's going to be done moving forward?
Yes, we will continue to increase enforcement and patrols on these trails. Our city manager actually just approved 2 new e-bikes to make it easier, because some of the difficulties is sometimes on patrol in 110 degrees trying to pedal a bike up and down that river trail. So we just actually were approved to purchase some e-bikes to do some more patrols on those trails.
So this guy came up during yesterday's city council meeting, right? The discussion about homelessness. Can you guys at least speculate as to why he would choose the river? Is there a possibility that he thought it would be blamed on the homeless, or is it just because there's isolated areas where a lot of women run through?
I can't speculate on that. I believe he had an idea on how he was going to commit his crime, and it wasn't going to be at his apartment, maybe because he had a significant other there and children, and so he had to find a kind of desolate place outside of the city. And so he was using just the outskirts of the city, but that's all speculation, so I don't have the specifics on that.
Chief, were you guys surprised that he confessed to the crimes to you guys?
No, I wasn't surprised at all.
You believe this
And
one?
to elaborate is, there's quite a bit of evidence, considering also video evidence. There's a lot of stuff that he was going to have a difficult time combating, and so sometimes the better route is for an actual apology, which there was remorse in Mr. Reyes.
Because he traveled out of the county, do you believe there's more victims at this point, possibly?
Well, that's something that the sheriff had talked about. There was travel outside the county, but I also want to talk about within our city and county. There could be more than the 3 that came forward. There may be one that actually the crime got taken further and just wasn't reported out of fear. Sometimes that does happen with some of our victims. So not only did the sheriff talk about outside and his traversing outside of our city and county, but I also want to reach out to our community within Madera County and say, if you were a victim and were afraid to come forward, please come forward. We want to prosecute this gentleman to the fullest. Yes. The bicycle was a mountain bike style bicycle, and I could put it up on the screen. Karina, would you mind playing the first video? This is the first video that the police department utilized from the camera from the sheriff's department. They put up after the first incident. Nope, that's the second one. Could you show the other one? That's the same bike though. It's clearly our suspect at the business. Thank you, you could leave that one up. But this was the business I spoke about. After we got the first video, the officers recognized from a prior call for service. We went to that business. They provided us the video the officer was speaking about, and this was the older style mountain bike, white in color with black. You want to show the first video just so they understand kind of the area. This is just on the outskirts west of town off the river trail. It does have, but this was the camera angle that we saw. This was our suspect before the actual crime occurred. He's wearing all the same clothing our survivor described. And a lot of that clothing, almost all of it, was found inside the residence. And that bicycle is very similar in color with the distinct nature of the white in the front with the darker color that flows into it. That bike was also located at the apartment where the search warrant was served.
Do you guys have a number about how many times he was captured on camera out there? Was it just this only footage that we have?
So we have a few different images and videos. We only brought one. I don't have the exact number of how many times we saw him out there. But at the time, we didn't really have a clear idea of what our suspect description was off the first couple. We had very distinct evidence of the time and how he made his attacks. But a clear suspect description wasn't able to be given out of the duress that they were under, which I totally understand.
That second clip was before the second incident, or what period?
So that clip was before the third incident. It was the same day as the third incident because our incident actually happened at night at 9 p.m. This is just before him out in that area, which is very, very similar to the area of where the first two incidents occurred. And that's why that camera was set up out there by the sheriff's department.
What does this suspect do for work?
I don't have his employment information.
Would you characterize him as a sexual predator?
I don't have the end result, but in my mind, yes. My personal opinion, yes.
Okay, well, there's no other questions. We appreciate you all for coming. Just to kind of piggyback on the question there, he did steal those single pair of headphones, but I'm going to elaborate that other than that one incident, and of which it did not appear that robbery was his motive, right? He wasn't out there trying to steal anything from any of their victims. We have no statement where he was demanding wallets or anything else. So it is pretty clear as far as I think we're concerned on the law enforcement side what his intent was. So I thank you all for coming. Appreciate you taking your time. Have a good afternoon.
Is there any way you guys, are you gonna be able to release that video?
She'll be able to release some items. We'll also have a picture of the suspect that you can use, and we can email out, if you haven't already, that actual
Oh, cool, so there'll be attachments.